So, unfortunately, we haven't had much of a winter here in northern Arizona this year, but I'm about to head out on some pretty big extreme winter backpacking trips in Colorado and the Canadian Rockies over the next couple of months. So I've started upgrading some of my winter backpacking gear to make myself more efficient and comfortable at lower temps and higher elevations. Last year I really started getting into winter backpacking because usually we get a ton of snow up here at 7,000 feet in northern Arizona, and I've just been wanting to embrace it more, mainly to get myself out in harsher conditions and get me prepared for some of these big mountaineering trips. So in late 2023, I made a couple of upgrades and gear switches in my typical ultralight backpacking kit just to make myself a little more comfortable and more warm when I'm out doing some of these winter trips. But over the last year of really getting out into some colder backpacking trips, higher elevations, I've learned that I've needed just a little bit more to actually make myself comfortable when I'm out in the field. So this stuff is really, I guess, more upgraded from some of the stuff that I switched last year. And I wouldn't necessarily call this video a gear review because I'm just now getting this stuff. I've just started using it, and we'll call it more of a first look at some of the stuff that I'm really about to put through the ringer over the next 2 months, especially up in Colorado and the Canadian Rockies. I'm sure that I'll eventually do like a full breakdown of what worked and what didn't work and actually do some gear reviews on this stuff specifically. So not a gear review, more of a first look. So real quick, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of these upcoming winter backpacking trips without the awesome support of today's video sponsor, onX Backcountry. onX Backcountry has become this invaluable tool to have in my gear kit when I'm out doing my adventures in the backcountry. Whether that's a trip in the Grand Canyon, one of these hardcore winter backpacking trips, or my upcoming traverse of the Brooks Range. I absolutely love being able to navigate and get all the information that I need on my phone while I'm out here. And then probably my favorite thing about onX lately has been actually using the desktop version. So I'm actually able to get a complete 3D map, route out all of my trip, and then put my waypoints, find out all of my information, plug it all in and create an itinerary for myself and my trip, then save it as an offline map, put it on my phone, and I'm able to use it in the backcountry. And then while I'm out there, I'm able to use features like the weather layer, the public and private lands layer, the wildfire layer, and all the awesome features that are actually built into the app. So if you guys want to step up your navigation game and you want to help support me and my channel, check out my link down in the description box. You can get 20% off of a full onX Backcountry subscription. And before you even get 20% off of that, you can sign up for a free trial just to check it out for yourself. Again, I cannot thank onX enough for supporting me, my channel, and all of my adventures in the backcountry. All right, so let's jump into some of the stuff that I've recently upgraded. The first thing that has been a pretty big upgrade for me is how I travel. It's how I traverse in winter conditions. Now, I've always been a bit of a snowshoe person. I've been into snowshoes for probably the past 10 years. First time I ever really snowshoed was up at Cumbres Pass, right on the CDT, the buddy of mine, Zach. It was actually one of the early videos that I put here on my channel. And when I'm doing any type of snow traversing, snowshoes are usually my go-to. They're easy, they pack down somewhat small, they're not too clumsy, but I've been wanting something that's a little more efficient, simply because if I'm going on like a big expedition or a climb or something, these take a lot of effort, especially when you are in super deep snow. And something I started looking into last year, I've known about for years and I've really wanted, is actually a pair of what they call trekking skis. And that is what's right behind me here. So these are the Altai Hawks. I think it's Hawk, it's Hawk, something like that. This is a 145 centimeter ski. So as far as the length, and as you can see, they are super wide. Now, what makes these really unique and different from most skis is these aren't really made for doing any type of downhill or any type of like really hardcore skiing. These are almost like a ski snowshoe. So really only for traversing. Now, they do have a metal edge on them, and as you can see on the bottom, they have a skin. So this kind of like cat tongue groove material that's really good for climbing and going up steep grades. And what makes these really cool is they actually have a universal binding on them. So instead of having kind of a clip-in ski boot binding, I can put my regular shoes or my boots in here. So if I really wanted to, I could probably put my trail runners in here, just like my snowshoes, and then this raises, so as I walk, it's more efficient as you traverse through the snow. But like I said, what I can do with them is I can put my boots in them. So these are a pair of my winter mountaineering boots. I have a couple different ones. These are my Scarpa Phantom Techs. These are what I've been using for most of my winter trips, especially some of my mountaineering trips, and these clip perfect into those. These also work great with my crampons and anything else that I need to do in the snow. So the Altai Hawks, Hooks, whatever they are, have been a pretty awesome upgrade for me. Like I said, unfortunately, we haven't really had a lot of snow out here, so I'm super jacked to finally get these out and do some awesome snow traversing in them. Next up, the next piece of gear that I recently picked up was something that I didn't really think that I needed in the grand scheme of things last year, but I ended up borrowing my buddies, using it a lot, and now it's something I really want, and that is a snow shovel. So an actual compact backpacking snow shovel. This is the Black Diamond Transfer Lite, or Transfer LT. What makes this snow shovel really cool is it's got a bunch of different cutouts. It has an aluminum shovel to it, an actual blade, and an expandable handle, so I can really get down and shovel. So you might be saying to yourself, if you're not really into winter backpacking, why would I need a shovel? Well, for a couple different reasons. This is mainly for being able to do avalanche rescue. So if I'm out with somebody else, something happens, having this is good to have in case I have to dig myself out or dig somebody else out, but also when doing really deep winter backpacking, having a lot of snow, I use this to actually shovel out areas around my tent, so that way I can set up in my tent in the morning and be able to put my boots on. Kind of like a little trench around my tent. Or being able to shovel out a kitchen or a little sitting spot in the snow like I did last year. So this has been a pretty welcome addition to my kit. Pretty jacked to get this out and use it. It's really light. It's one of the lightest snow shovels on the market, and it breaks down pretty small. You can take that off. You can just kind of take this, pack it together, strap it on the outside of your pack. So that was a much needed upgrade for my kit for this year and some winter backpacking. All right, next up is my cook system. So last year I made a couple of switches. For years, you guys know that I've always used the BRS stove. The little bitty, under an ounce, Amazon cheapo stove. This thing has always worked for me. Is it the most efficient on gas? No. Is it the best in the wind? No. Last year, I did decide to upgrade this to another stove, which is the Soto Windmaster. And this thing worked fantastic. I swapped to this mainly because it had a piezo on it, so I could light it with my glove, didn't have to worry about a lighter. It had this little windscreen thing on it that came off, and it was just better in higher winds. But I still ran into the issue with fuel, right? If you don't sleep with fuel, especially isobutane, it can freeze, it can get cold, and then this starts to sputter. It starts to do not so efficient at lower temps. So I'd been looking at a stove that could be a little more efficient, be lighter, be better in the wind, but also be better with gas and more efficient at lower temps and higher elevations. So I started looking at, a remote stove. So where the fuel can and the burner are completely separate and it doesn't sit on top of each other. And after looking at a bunch of them, super expensive, some really expensive ones out there, I ended up finding a pretty ultralight version of it, which is a stove made by Fire Maple called the Blade 2. So what makes the stove really awesome is it is a remote stove, meaning that I can hook the fuel can to it remotely. So it gets this lower on to the ground, so it's better in the wind. But what that also allows me to do is if I'm in super cold temps and I need to actually use liquid fuel, I can take this and I can flip it upside down, allowing the liquid to go into the stove and burn better at colder temps. What I also like about the stove and what makes it good for deep winter backpacking is it has this preheat tube. So the fuel actually comes through this line, it goes up through here, and then the flame heats this tube, heats the fuel before it goes into the burner, again allowing it to work better at colder temps. It's pretty damn light for what it is. It weighs right under 5 ounces. I think it's like 4.9 ounces. For one of these stoves and everything else that I looked at, it packs down pretty tiny. So far with all of my testing that I've done with it, it seems to be like a really great little efficient stove, especially for cold temps. Now with this, I decided to upgrade a couple other parts of my cook system. So last year I started using a bigger cook pot. Typically I use something like a 750 milliliter pot, but last year I upgraded to an 1100 pot. Mainly because when I'm out there, the biggest way to get water is by melting snow. So I just needed more room to be able to melt that snow. And this is a pot made by my company, Evolve Supply Co. What I love about it for winter is it has the pour spout, it has the bail in case we do make a fire and I use it, but it's also wide enough and big enough to be able to melt snow in it efficiently. This stove fits down in here perfectly. So really nice little combination here. And along with these, also got last year one of these Big Sky International pouches. So this is perfect to be able to boil my snow, get my water, get it to a roaring boil, and then pour it in my backpacking meal. Put it in this to keep it warm and let it rehydrate a lot faster and more efficiently, keeping my food actually warm instead of freezing on the outside of those bags. So overall, I really upgraded my entire cook system. So for me, I just take the little stove, wrap this up, take it into here, put that down in my pot, put my lighter in there, and then boom, now I have a super efficient, pretty ultralight, deep winter backpacking cook system. So a big upgrade for my kit. I'm hoping this just makes boiling water, cooking food, drinking coffee, doing all that stuff I need to do in the backcountry more efficient for this year. All right, next up on the list is an item that I guess I'll show you guys, but I'm not ready to really reveal what it is yet because I want to do a little testing on it and see if I really like it for what I think that I got. And that is a new quilt. I got a new sleeping quilt. I've used a lot of the same quilts over the years, whether it was a 20 degree or a 0 degree, but there's a couple things that I kind of wish that those quilts had. And recently I found a new quilt that seemed very interesting to me, seemed like it would be much better in cold temps, much better at higher elevations. So I picked one up. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil what it is yet. I wanna take it out on this trip, do a little testing, and then I'll eventually end up telling you guys maybe in a couple videos away. So stay tuned for that. And speaking of insulation and staying warm when I'm in camp, I also decided to upgrade some more of my clothing. So obviously, you know, I'm not hiking in shorts. I'm not just hiking in a sun hoodie. I'm wearing fleeces, I'm wearing pants, I'm wearing heavier socks, like I said, boots. But for the past handful of years, I've went completely to synthetic jackets, where I think synthetic jackets are really great for when you're being active, if you're gonna be in a super rainy, wet environment. Down jackets are much better for warmth when you're at camp. Well, last year, on top of my synthetic jacket, I added a down jacket. First down jacket I've had in years, which was this Z-Pax down jacket. I took this over to Nepal with me. I used this in conjunction with my synthetic jacket, and it worked decently, but I felt like I could still use a little more warmth. And I kind of just wanted one main camp jacket. Because really when I'm being active, I'm using fleeces, right? I'm hiking in my fleeces, I'm climbing in my fleeces. I really just need a down jacket when I am stopped. So I decided to recently upgrade my down jacket, go with one jacket for my trips, and that is the La Sportiva Super Coular 1000. This thing is a hardcore down jacket. A buddy of mine had one of these early last year when I did a trip in Nepal, and I was pretty jealous of it because he was super warm at base camp. It seemed like a great jacket, and it seemed like something I wanted to check out, so I ended up getting myself one. So the Super Coular is kind of less of a down jacket and more of a down parka. As you can see, it's huge. I kind of look like the Michelin Man a little bit. It has a ton of down in it, and it's 1,000 fill. So this has a lot of loft to it, a lot of puff. But what I really love about this jacket is how big it is. So as you can see, maybe you can't see, how long it is. It's actually more of a parka. So it goes down really, really low. So as far as staying warm in camp and staying warm when I stop on the side of a mountain, this thing rocks. It also has some really awesome features. On the inside of it, it has two big dual pockets. So if I'm stopped, I can keep things in there like my phone. If I'm at camp, I can keep my gas can in there, my camera batteries, anything that I want to keep close to my body heat and keep warm. So I love that feature. It also packs down really, really small. And for as big as the jacket is and as much down as here in the fabric, it's pretty damn light. It weighs just under a pound. I think right at 15.8 ounces or something. So pretty light for as much jacket as it is. And then probably my favorite feature of the jacket is the hood. So it has this full-on hood, but it has this little bitty neoprene thing here that actually grips the brim of your hat, keeping the hood in place. So if you're in high winds, this really, really keeps you warm and really allows your head to articulate with the hood. So I think this is gonna do the trick. I think this is gonna keep me as warm as I need it to. It's gonna be good for camp. It's gonna be good for when I stop, when I'm out trekking or I'm climbing. So the La Sportiva Super Couloir is a new piece of kit that I've added to my list for this year. All right, moving on, the next two pieces of gear are, I guess, less of extreme winter backpacking gear, but it is gear that I've added for my winter backpacking and climbing trips specifically. Number one is my tent, my shelter. Over the last year, I've actually been experimenting a lot, testing and using a lot of freestanding tents. Kind of the first time that I've done that in about 8 years. I hiked the Appalachian Trail with a freestanding tent, and ever since then, I've been a big fan of trekking pole tents. Well, when you're in the snow, trekking pole tents don't really work that well because you need tension, and when you're trying to put a bunch of stakes in the snow, a trekking pole tent just doesn't really cut it. Also, you need something that's better at high winds. You need something that's good with snow load, so it needs to have that structure in case there's a bunch of snow that drops on the tent. So I've been using a lot of trekking pole tents. Last year, I added the Z-Packs freestanding tent to my kit, and that's what I've been kind of exclusively using over the past year. But recently, I wanted to try out some new tents, see kind of just what was out there, and I don't know, just expand my horizons on tents. So I picked up the Nemo Hornet Osmo 2-person, which has been a really awesome tent. I've been testing it on a bunch of my trips, but it's not completely freestanding, meaning that one side of it's freestanding, the other one you have to put out with stakes. So I was thinking of another double wall freestanding tent that would be good for snow, and I actually picked up this classic, which is the Big Agnes Copper Spur UL1. Again, I did the Appalachian Trail with a Copper Spur UL2, both in 15 and 16. So I know these tents are good. I know they last. I know they're built well. So I decided to pick up another one for my winter trips this year. Now, whether this will be a great winter tent or I guess a 4-season tent, we will see. But I think it's gonna do the trick pretty good. They did kind of a little bit of a redesign on this tent over the last couple years, so I was jacked to check it out. And yeah, I guess there's not really much else to say about this. The only thing that I don't like about it at first impression, right off the bat, is the poles. So as you can see, the poles break down to that small and that small only. Now, to a lot of people, this is typical for freestanding tents, but if I look at something like my Z-Packs freestanding tent, that is the size with the poles inside of there. And same with the Nemo Hornet Osmo. The poles are inside of that package. So I like something that packs down a little bit small, takes up a little less room in my pack, and I'm not a big fan of putting stuff on the outside of my pack, especially now that I'm doing these winter backpacking trips where I'm having to carry something like a snow shovel or say my skis or my snowshoes on the outside of my pack. I don't want to put more stuff. So this is yet to be seen if I'm going to think this is a complete pain in the ass, but I'm pretty jacked to get out another Big Agnes tent and try this in the field this winter. So I'll let you guys know. I'll let you know how that tent works out. And then the last thing, again, is not really a deep winter backpacking piece of gear, but a piece of gear that I specifically have added to my backpacking kits because I want more data to stay safer and be more efficient when I'm out in these environments. And that is something I kind of added to my kit about 1.5 years ago, but haven't really talked about. which is a GPS watch. For the past 2 years, I have used the Suunto Peak 9. So a great watch. It's been awesome for kind of my general hikes, doing some trail runs or working out in the gym, but it's missing a lot of features that I wanted in just a better watch for climbing, being at higher elevations. So I actually upgraded to the new Suunto Vertical. This is the Vertical Titanium. Now, before I go any further about this watch, it's expensive, but it has exactly what I was looking for. It has a barometer, it has an altimeter, it tells you current weather on it. You can use offline maps. So if I create my maps with something like Onyx Backcountry, I can take those, I can put them on here and then be able to navigate and route with the maps on this watch, which is great. And the biggest thing about this, especially versus my old one, is its battery life. They claim that this has a 60-day battery life. Now, I'm not sure if it lasts that long, but I can tell you it lasts pretty damn long. I've had this for about 3 months now, and I charged it 2 times. And I use it almost every single day at the gym or out on the trail. It also has a solar face to it, so it actually charges from the sun and the light. So if I'm in a snowy environment, you have all this light coming in. I'm hoping this does really, really well in low temps. So far, everything I've done with it, all the climbing I've done with it, the hiking, backpacking trips, gym, it's been awesome. And I'm really jacked to get this out on some cold weather trips. But yeah, that's kind of the last upgrade I made, which is the Suunto Vertical Titanium watch. To get more data, I've been kind of obsessed with data lately, especially when I'm doing all of these hikes and routing my own trips and stuff. It's been very important for me. All right, guys, there you go. That's a first look at some of this new gear that I'm really about to take out and put through the ringer over the next 3 months. Again, I'll end up giving you guys an update on how this gear worked for me, what I think of it. Will I use it going forward on some of my other trips? Like, will some of this stuff kind of transfer over to doing things like the Brooks Range in June or Pakistan in August? Speaking of that, have you guys started getting into winter backpacking? Or is winter backpacking something you've always done? What's some of your favorite winter backpacking gear that you can't go into the backcountry in the snow without? Is it a piece of safety equipment? Is it insulation? Is it a way to traverse through the snow? Let me know down in the comments. Guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. Hope you're taking care of each other. I love you. And as always, thanks for watching.